Okay.
I am so sorry. Teresa will be here momentarily. We were in the wrong meeting.
Oh,
So it was just the two of us in a meeting by ourselves,
oh boy.
wondering why no one else was there. So I'm very sorry for that. I don't know how we did that.
I'm happy it wasn't me by myself.
Okay.
So who are we waiting for? Any of the commissioners? No, we're all here. It's 7:03. Should we get started? Let's get started.
Who's the new commissioner?
Pardon?
Who's the new commissioner?
Casey, can you turn off the video for Michael McCarroll? Thank you.
Thanks. And I was going to ask anybody who's attending, if you aren't automatically muted, please mute yourself. It would be really helpful. Thank you.
Oh yeah, turn the video off for Jane, please. Thank
Jane.
you.
Okay, so it is now again 7:03, and let's get our meeting started now that we're all together. So we need to establish a quorum. And Casey, if you want to do roll call, please.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Give me just one moment. Chair Morris.
Yes, present.
Vice Chair Corrigan.
Here.
Commissioner Ye.
Present.
Commissioner Valadez.
Here.
Commissioner Wang.
Here.
And Commissioner Daly.
Here.
We are all 6 members are present.
Great. So moving along, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. And I would just say, feel free to join in, mute yourself, however you're most comfortable.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a special item before we start the meeting. It was with great pleasure that I introduce you not only to the new Parks and Recreation Director, Manny Hernandez, but also to the new Parks and Recreation Department. So we are no longer the Recreation and Community Services Department. We're now Parks and Recreation, which perfectly lines up with our Parks and Recreation Commission. As most of you know, I am retiring on September 24th. And so effective right before July, we made the shift for Manny to be the new director. And I just want to share with everyone a little bit of Manny's background so that you, if you have any questions or it's topics, conversation, topics, he would love to share with you more details about his background. So Manny began his recreation career in 1994 as a recreation.
She freeze? Was it just me?
I think it froze.
Rose.
I think Donna froze. Yeah.
Come back, Donna.
Nothing goes as planned, huh?
Manny, you might have to share your own background.
Let me see if I can remember. I had to write that down. I started in Southern California, so I'll go ahead and continue. Started in Southern California as a recreation aide / leader, and did all recreation type of programs, teens to seniors, and then came and worked, came to the Bay Area and worked for the city of Foster City for 16 years, starting in 1999. I worked in the capacity as a coordinator for recreation, a manager for recreation and facilities, and I also worked as a manager, and there's Donna, manager in parks maintenance as well. So that's when I came to City of Los Altos in 2015, and became the Recreation Community Services Director here for approximately 3 years. And then for the last 3 or so years, 3.5 years, I've been serving as the maintenance services director, and that's streets, parks, and sewers and fleet and buildings maintenance. So now with me to this department, this new department, Parks and Recreation, I bring the recreation, or I bring to recreation, the parks maintenance and the facility maintenance division too. So that will be all under me and our department as a whole. So I can't remember, what else did I write down, Donna? I think that was, she froze again? Okay, so with that, a little bit more about my background. I did serve as commissioner for ASA, and that's the Softball Association for the Peninsula for several years, as well as served as president of District 4 CPRS for a while as well. And I was at one point, not current, but was playground safety certified. So with that, it's me. I introduced myself, so
Good
thank
job.
you. Thank you. With that, I would just want to tell everyone, thank you for supporting me. I know many of you have reached out to me individually and congratulated me on this. This is very exciting for me to come into this, back into recreation. Recreation's fun and enjoyable aspects of it. I missed while I was in maintenance, although maintenance, I love getting stuff done, and I still have an aspect of it as well. So really excited to work with the commission and my staff as a whole. But for the last several years, I want to thank Donna Legge for what she's done and congratulate her on her retirement, her very well-deserved retirement, and wish her the best. So allow me to say a few things about her background, and hopefully I don't freeze. But Donna actually graduated from San Jose State University with a BS degree in recreation administration, and she did an internship in the city of Santa Cruz. Donna started her career working in various capacities as a part-time employee for various agencies, including the California Youth Corps, ice ring cashier, pool cashier, camp counselor, after-school recreation leader, and special events coordinator. And she worked in the box office as well as an assistant. She has a total of 37 years of full-time experience. Donna has 15 years experience as a recreation supervisor, 6 years as a director, and 16 years as the recreation director, and 16 years as parks and recreation director. Agencies that she's been with include County of Los Angeles Parks and Recreation, City of Sierra Madre, which Gabe's familiar with, City of Half Moon Bay, El Dorado Hills Community Services District, the Town of Windsor, where she came from right before joining us. And when she joined us, that was her second stint with Los Altos. So she served in 2001 to 2006, and then currently 2019 till now. Donna's retiring, or I think your last official day is September 23rd. Is that right?
24th, yeah.
24th, okay. So, and she's currently serving our department and working directly under me as a recreation consultant for us. And we're still planning her retirement party. So with that, I want to congratulate Donna on her retirement and thank you for what she's done for the city of Los Altos.
Thank you. All right, so with that, I'm going to leave it up to Manny and Chair Morris to facilitate the meeting, and I'll just be on the side.
Thank you, Donna. Chair, it's all yours.
Thank you both for the great introduction to both of you and the reminder of what Donna brought to us and her background. And we're looking forward to working with you, Manny, as we move forward with this. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is to approve the minutes. Does anybody have any?
Actually, Chair
no.
Morris, we need to start with public comment for items not on the agenda.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. Okay, so if there are any public comments for items not on the agenda, we'll take them now. And if I may, while we're at this point, I do want to let people who are waiting to speak regarding the pickleball topic. I just wanted to let people know we at Park do not have any control or input on what happens with the pickleball. So you're welcome to stay, listen, give us your input. We've read emails. I'm sure everybody read all of them. I have a total of 28 myself that I've read. So if you're not inclined to want to stay for the whole meeting, we invite you to stay for the whole meeting. But if there's any reason you need to go, we understand and just want to give you the room to be able to make that change. But otherwise, please stay and hear the update about pickleball from staff. Okay, so are there any hands raised for items not on the agenda, Casey?
I do not currently have any hands raised, and I did not have any requests for items not on the agenda.
Okay, great. Okay, so moving on, we need to approve the minutes from our May 11th meeting. That's a while ago, but I'm hoping everybody had a chance to read them. And then does anybody have any corrections or input that they need to give at this time? Please raise your hand, or maybe we should do it. Anybody raise your hand? No, it doesn't look like we have any corrections to the minutes or concerns about them. Great. So that moves us into, if I have it right, we're moving into the pop-up activity presentation.
First,
Sorry.
if we can have a
Commissioner
motion and a
Daly.
second on.
Oh,
the-
sorry.
I'll move to approve the 5:11 minutes.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Daly. So Chair Morris, your vote?
I'm sorry.
Your vote on the minutes.
Oh, yes, they're fine. Thank you.
Vice Chair Corrigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Ye,
Yes.
Commissioner Valadez,
Yes.
Commissioner Wang,
Can I abstain since I wasn't at the meeting?
you can, and Commissioner Daly.
Yes.
That passes with 5 in favor.
Great, thank you. Okay, speeding along. We're up to the pop-up activities, and I believe Commissioner Valadez will be starting that presentation for us.
Can staff run the presentation for me, please?
Sorry, I was muted. Give me just one moment to get that open.
Okay. Can everybody hear me? I have this headset on, which presumably is supposed to solve my in and out problems. Can you
Yes.
hear me? Okay. Ready, Casey?
I am ready.
Okay, so I am going to start the presentation at least for the proposal that Chair Morris and I want to put forward to Park for our scope and mission for what we're calling the pop-up subcommittee. And the agenda today will cover very briefly the historical context and also the context as it relates to the work plan that was approved recently. And then I'll talk about the proposed scope, and then I'll hand it over to Chair Morris, who will talk about our mission. And then she will also finish off with the closing comments. As far as questions, I would invite people to ask questions as we go along. Just raise your hand and I'll ask Casey to help me watch for hands because I may not be able to see them if people have questions. Okay, next. So the first thing that Chair Morris and I did was to meet with staff to find out if there was any historical context for pop-up activity within Los Altos. And indeed there was, but it was limited and in fact quite differentiated from what she and I have in mind and will present today. Past pop-up activities for the city really were attached to larger, more formal city events such as concerts or fun runs or celebrations and fairs. And they comprise things like activity booths for kids or older people, raffle tables, informational booths, etc. And more often than not, members of staff were, city staff or Parks and Rec staff were involved or actually led the activities. And then Parks and Recreation Commission members would act as volunteers, as helpers. Therefore, we, at least with regard to our meetings with staff and any, I did some cursory searching through old minutes from many years ago to the extent I could find them. There was little to no precedent for what we're going to talk about today, which are park-driven and park-delivered pop-ups. Next page. So I'm not going to really go over this. This is a replication of our 2022-23 work plan for this line item. I just put it in this presentation so the public can see it. It's lifted directly from that, and it puts in context what what we're going to talk about in a minute within the scope of the actual documented work plan for this next year. Next page. So now I want to define what we mean by scope. Scope is basically the box within which this subcommittee will work. We wanted to put constraints around what we're doing so that people will understand and put value on the mission that's going to be described momentarily. So our scope is as follows, and this is what we're proposing to Park. We want to generate pop-up ideas and drive them to fruition, driven by this subcommittee. We also want to serve all age groups, and particular activities may be all ages, or they may be targeted to a particular age demographic. We'll have variety around that. We want to focus on one session events versus, say, series or courses or classes that take multiple stages to progress. We want to focus on one session events. We also want to utilize park commissioner skills and bandwidth. And what we mean by that is literally take an inventory of all of you and say, what do you like to do? What are you good at doing? What are you interested in perhaps helping our community learn, whether it's an activity or a topic, and actually leverage those skills. We believe there's value in that in terms of not only letting the community get to know us more personally, but also there's a cost savings in the skills coming from us. That doesn't mean that we might not access outside bandwidth or expertise when needed. If we come up with an idea and we feel that maybe it would be the best to bring in an expert, we will do that. At the same time, we want to constrain our budgetary impact. We want to manage our expenses. So Teresa and I will be coming up with budgets and work with staff to understand what degrees of freedom we have and what constraints we face. We also want to simplify participant registration. And we've discussed this with staff, and they endorse that we would do a sign on or sign in on site with focus on gathering names, gathering emails, and then also making sure we get waiver releases from participants to relieve the city of liability. In terms of staff's role, we want to minimize the burden on staff, but that doesn't mean that we are not working with staff. We will achieve staff buy-in in terms of the content of our pop-ups, budget, scheduling, obviously, and location, since we will have to be scheduled and located according to what staff allows. But we don't want to be a burden on their bandwidth or on their decision-making in terms of how we conduct the actual pop-ups. We're welcoming collaboration, but we don't want that to be an obligation on their part. And finally, we want to format the activities to stay within the city's risk parameters. So one of the things that Director Hernandez made very clear to us, and he's going to meet with the risk assessment people in the city, is to make sure that whatever we do, we understand the boundaries of liability that the city has, so that when we craft the parameters of a given pop-up, we're not exposing the city to undue risk. So we will depend very highly on him and staff for guidance in that regard. So this hopefully draws the box within which we will try to operate. Does anybody have any questions? Super duper. And now I hand it off to Chair Morris.
Thank you very much. So the mission, thank you. The mission of the pop-up subcommittee. So basically what we want to do is make our parks great fun and increase the engagement of the public so that they come to our parks more, they understand the parks a little bit more. Our goal is to make everything free of charge, or if there is any charge, it would be really nominal. So we'll be doing a series of, as Commissioner Valadez said, of one-time events. They will be small scale. We're hoping to have great diversity and again, ask different commissioners to participate and also maybe, come up with some of the ideas. We work together on this. We want them to be diverse so they appeal to a wide range of people, and they'll be spontaneous, at least as spontaneous as we can make something that will have great planning behind it. And we'll be utilizing the different parks and park facilities as need be and as they're available to us. One of the things we really want to emphasize is we're trying to lower the barriers of participation. So by taking these events to different parks within our community, it'll make it more accessible for many people. So not only will the Park and Recreation Department and Commission get more exposure this way, but we will be actually meeting people where they are. We want to work with other commissions specifically for the variety of ideas that are available. So imagine, the Youth Commission will have their input, the Senior Commission, the Art Commission, all of the commissions that we can reach out to, the Environmental Commission, ways that we can have them collaborate with us and come up with ideas that appeal to a wide range of people. We hope to, we're planning to have a feedback mechanism that will allow us to understand what is working and what isn't working. We'll share this information with staff as well. And if people want to provide their emails and contact information, it's our hope that we'll grow our email list as well. So it'll be a way for us to reach out to people in the future, provided they buy into that idea. So we can keep more people in the community informed about what we're doing and when events come up that are maybe hot topic events that we need to reach people about. So that's the basic mission of our subcommittee. Casey, may I have the next slide, please? Thank you. And basically what we're asking you to do is say yes or no, ask us any questions that you have regarding our pop-up plan. We are going to meet, Commissioner Valadez and I are going to meet and start working on the different ideas that we have. Those will be our next steps. So we'll come up with when we want to open the pop-ups, have kind of our grand opening, what we want to be opening with, but also what other pop-ups are we going to do. And I did, from a previous meeting with Park, ask all of you if you had ideas of ways that you could participate, ideas of things that you could do. I made a list of those and have those. So we will incorporate what you shared with us into our future plans as well. So if we just need your approval. We will come back to you with our next plans, and we will have a timeline as well in the future. We just wanted to let you know what we're doing now and get the okay for what you hear if there are any concerns that you share those with us as well. So I think that's it, unless Commissioner Valadez has anything else she wants to say about the pop-up. You're muted.
Just one little thing on the mission, Chair Morris, on the last bullet, you hit the first key point on the last bullet as far as enabling us to have outreach vis-a-vis an email list. I did want to add that there's also the potential, if the feedback is rich that we get from participants, that we can feed that to staff, and that might help them as they create structured programming like classes or types of activities that prove very popular. So there's, in a way, a little bit of market research, even though it may not be statistically valid. It certainly would be strongly anecdotal that REC might be able to use to guide future structured programming.
Absolutely, thank you. So at this time, I think we open it up for any discussion, conversation, questions that anybody has, and we're happy to answer them. Maybe raise your virtual hand, and if you need to raise your physical hand, please do that as well. I don't see any hands, so nobody has any questions or concerns.
we should open it up to members of the public if there are no commissioner questions.
Thank you.
So if there are any
Commissioner
members
Ye,
of,
were you raising your hand before we move to the public? Commissioner Ye, were you raising your hand? Okay, thank you. All right, great. Yes, please, if there is any public comment for this, it'd be appreciated.
I don't see any hands raised, but we could give them just a moment. And if not, we can move on to commissioner
Nancy,
discussion.
Oh,
And
Nancy has her hand raised. Yes, thank you.
you're right. I will ask Nancy to unmute. And if there's only one, Chair Morris, you can give her 3 minutes if you'd
3
like.
minutes, please. Yes, thank you.
Oh, I just need 1 minute. I think it sounds like a great idea. I'm really excited, and I was just wondering how you plan to advertise. I don't want to miss out. That's it.
Thank you very much for the thumbs up on this one for us. We are still in the planning stages of this. The plan at this point is to utilize the mailing list that Park has, also to reach out via any social media avenues that the city has. And that's about as far as we've got to the planning on reaching out, unless I'm forgetting something, Commissioner Valadez.
We want to investigate whether we could be so bold as to, for example, become part of the city manager's weekly update. That might also help. And then also we'll post announcements at the Parks and Rec Commission webpage. We're basically going to try everything, and we'll see what sticks. We'll see. One of our feedback questions will be, how did you hear about us? And that might help as well.
Yes, and we may be adding something into the calendar that's online. And then also, I know the Senior Commission has a newsletter, so it quite possibly will be in there. We're going to try to hit every place that we possibly can with this information. But we're always open to hearing from people if you have an idea of how you think we need to reach out to the public as well. So I think that's it for that part, but I can see we have another hand raised. It's Jane.
Hello?
Yes,
Can you
hi
hear me?
Jane, we can hear you.
Hi. So I just wanted to suggest possibly putting something in the town crier, in the Los Altos town crier, the newspaper. I think email lists and such direct communication is wonderful. For new residents, though, they may not know about such things, and the newspaper is just generally a good kind of source, announcements in there somehow.
Perfect. Thank you for that suggestion.
And also I hope there will be beginning pickleball classes, because I hear it's all the rage, and I'm an enthusiast myself, and I just got recently introduced to it. I was dragged kicking and screaming to a lesson, and it's amazing, but we'll speak to that later.
Thank you. Actually, before we appreciate the input on ideas too. Before we move forward, I do want to make it really clear, because I don't think I made it as clear as we need to. When staff presents the information on pickleball, that will not be a public comment time. So it gets a little tricky because it's going to be an informational item. But I'm sorry,
Jane.
Mr. Hernandez, you want to?
Teresa, yeah, what that is, it actually, we've discussed this already with the city clerk, and they will be able to have a certain amount of time, because
Okay,
it is on the agenda, so it's okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just wanted to confirm. So hang in there, folks. We'll get to you. Okay, and it looks like, I think Jane is done, that we have Ron, if I'm saying that correctly.
Hi, this is Ron and Todd. We live in Los Altos. We've been here for 25 years, 30 years. There you go. We are big pickleball enthusiasts, and we came to the meeting to just show our support. We didn't know if there was going to be time to discuss it.
Ron, We will discuss it. It's not at this time, though. We're in a different part of the agenda. So if you can hang on and raise your hand when we get to that point, we'll give you a chance to speak.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I don't see any other hands. Casey, do you? No, okay. So what we need from commissioners this evening, if possible, is a thumbs up or an okay, keep going, you're on the right track, or so it doesn't seem there are any concerns. So we're looking for basically the acceptance of what we're proposing for our subcommittee.
I'd like to see a motion from a commissioner if there are no more questions to approve our scope and mission.
Okay,
Commissioner Wang,
I move to accept the recommendation and proposal for the pop-up subcommittee.
is there a second? Members
am I
of
allowed
the
to
sub,
second? I
you
can
are.
second it, sure.
Chair Morris. And then we'll take a roll call vote. Chair Morris
Yes, thank you.
and Vice Chair Corrigan
Yes.
and Commissioner Ye
Sure.
and Commissioner Valadez,
Yes,
Commissioner Wang,
Yes.
and Commissioner Daly.
Yes.
That one passes unanimously.
Perfect, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, so moving on to the next topic is the gender pronoun discussion. Do we need to have a conversation about this? But what I'm trying to figure out is, do we need to have public comment first? Sorry.
So you can actually present your initial idea first. I can
Okay.
show the slides or the specific slides you asked about.
Okay.
And then if there are no clarifying questions that need to be answered, we'll turn it over to public comment.
Perfect, thank you. So there's really only one slide to be shared, and it's the resource slide. And I believe that's slide 11, if I have it correctly in my brain.
Just a moment and I'll try to get there.
Nope, it's 8. Sorry about that. Okay, so essentially, this is a circling back topic from what we had presented, interestingly enough, in July of 2021, when the Santa Clara LGBTQ, and I'm going to add plus, organization came and presented to our commission. So I just wanted to circle back specifically because many of staff is in the recreation department are embracing putting their gender pronouns next to their names. I actually had mine in the last meeting, but I wasn't able to figure out how to do it in this correct meeting. So anyway, it's to be supportive of what our staff is doing and also of community and helping people when they're addressing us and also others when there are guests or visitors, that we know how to address them as well. It is a completely 100% optional and personal decision that you will be making about whether or not you want to add it. One important thing, though, is if you want to add it and you're not able to, Casey or another staff member, if Casey isn't here, would be happy to add your gender pronoun into your name. It looks like Commissioner Valadez has a question.
it's actually quite simple. If you go to your window that shows your face on this call, and you put your cursor at the upper right hand corner of your face, your view, and click on it. Oh, for some reason it's not doing it right now. Normally when we're not in presentation mode, if you do that, one of the options is to rename yourself, and that's where you can make the edit.
Perfect.
I think when somebody's presenting, you can't do it, but when we're just looking at the Hollywood squares of everybody's face, that's when you can edit.
Hey, Jeannie, if you want to do it, just right click on your face. It'll do it.
Great. So everybody has more tech ability than I do on this. And I will say sometimes it's different depending on if you're on a computer, you're on an iPad, you're on your phone. So for the public, it's nice for them to have that option as well if they want to be able to learn through this. So again, this is a completely optional decision for you all to make. I wanted to say that it's under the JEDI subcommittee heading because JEDI is for justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. So allowing people to be themselves is a crucial aspect of all of those points in the JEDI abbreviation. So by adding your gender pronoun, you allow, as I said, people to understand how you want to be addressed, and again, how we want our guests. If this is uncomfortable for you, please don't even think that you need to do it. And it really was about letting everybody know that as this community and staff is trying to do this, so we put it on to show some solidarity and support with that. The slide that is up, it has great resources, and you can click on there. You can follow the Santa Clara County LGBTQ on Instagram, Facebook, so on. And they also have trainings, and we were given that information. It's been provided again tonight if you want to have participate in that training. And I think basically that's it for this topic. If anybody has any questions, concerns, happy to vet them now. But that was it. It was a circle back around, just let everybody know if you want some help with this or you want to do it. We're encouraging it, but not requiring it by any means. So anybody have any comments or questions? Not, yes, Commissioner Daly.
I just want to add, I've been showing my pronouns for a long time. Just because you may be cisgendered doesn't mean that there's not a reason for you to show your pronouns, right? By showing your pronouns, you make it okay for people of all identities to show their pronouns as well. And for me, it's not about making sure that folks understand that I want to be referred to as him or he, but it's about making sure that all people feel comfortable requesting the pronouns that are appropriate for them. So I encourage everybody to do it, please.
Thank you. And I think that's agreed upon by many people about this. Yes, Commissioner Valadez.
I fully support what Commissioner Daly said, and I would like to add for my own part, and even in my own experience, that, you know, we may know who we are, but we can't always know how to treat other people. And by inviting them to share their identity with us, especially when their identity may or may not align with our preconceived biases and notions about what a particular gender presents itself, how it presents themselves, then we can be more empathetic and intelligent about how we refer to them. So it's an invitation, as Commissioner Daly said, but it's also a recognition that information is good for us rather than us presupposing based on our own experiences how somebody wants to identify themselves. And, you know, I could give very explicit examples, but, you know, and in fact, I myself have stepped into the mud because I made an assumption based on what I saw or who I saw. And it turned out that that was not how they identified. And then, you know, I was on to the apology, which is fine. Apologies are great. But if I had been more amenable to possibilities, then I might have invited pronouns first and then made my references, and that would have made me maybe a little bit more comforting to the other person. So I think it's just a matter of empathy and being welcoming to people to allow them to identify themselves as they see fit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Morris, we do have a member of the public with their hand raised. So when we are done with commissioner comments, I think we do have a public comment on this item.
Perfect. Yes, I noticed. Thank you. Does anybody else want to make an additional comment? Any other commissioners? The only additional one I'm going to add is the reason why I feel strongly it is always an optional choice for someone to do is I'm also aware of the fact that there are some people who are not comfortable putting what their identity is. They aren't ready to show who they are in a public manner, and by sort of insisting in any sort of group setting that someone do that, it puts them in a place of perhaps either lying or identifying themselves when they're not ready to. So it's crucial, in my opinion, that we keep this in mind and that we move forward with that understanding of everybody's comfort and embracing where we all are in our lives and how we want to live them. So with that said, if there's nobody else, no other hands, then we'll move to public comment.
Okay, I think I'm going to ask Bill to unmute.
Oops, I'm sorry. It looks like Commissioner Valdez.
Commissioner Corrigan has his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Corrigan. I'm sorry, we missed it. Okay.
Thank you. First of all, I appreciate the viewpoints that have been shared so far, and I particularly like the optional aspect of this because my one concern with this is it seems to have people identify their identity specifically by their, their pronoun, their biological origin versus it could be your religious view. I may want to be addressed as a certain class of religious belief or political view. So my concern is this sort of opens up a whole can of worms of how people want to be identified. And I don't really think it's the purview of this commission. It really doesn't have, it's a more generic issue for society in general. I'm not sure why this is being brought to the forefront here, but I appreciate the optionality that's being offered to everyone because everyone has always had that ability to provide that pronoun descriptor prior to this meeting as well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And again, the reason we're having the conversation now is I had a conversation with now not director Donna Legge, and it was to help be supportive of a decision that staff had made, and so to sort of bring us all together as a community, but 100% a choice. So anybody else on commission want to make any comments? Let's give a second. Okay, I'm not seeing any, so Casey, the public comment would be great. Thank you. Oops, you're muted, Casey.
Sorry, I think Bill is unmuted at this time. Bill, are you able to speak?
I am able to speak.
Okay, I'm going to put your timer up right now.
I'm very flabbergasted that this conversation is even taking place in a Parks and Recreation Commission. I agree with Pete, I think his name is. This is totally inappropriate. I mean, this whole thing about gender and this LGBTQ, whatever XYZ are, they're like less than 1% of the population in the country is that. And we're acting like we need to kowtow to everything these people want to do. And if you want to call yourself he or she or it or duh, whatever, call yourself that, but don't make us as a public have to feel, quote, guilty like this leader that's been talking all night about how she made a mistake and, hurt somebody's feelings. This is totally preposterous. What kind of society do we have when people get so upset about some little ridiculous thing like that? I'm not going to say any more. It's just, that's it. I mean, it's crazy.
Thank you for your input and for keeping it as civil as possible. We appreciate that. Okay. So with that, I think I don't see any other hands. We'll close the public comment, and I believe we need a motion. Is that correct? We're needing a motion on this. Does anybody want to attempt a motion?
If there is a motion to be made, now would be the time. We can also, the commission can also not make a motion after discussion. That is correct.
That is
Okay.
correct. A motion is not necessary unless one
Okay.
is needed. or
Then
requested.
that would be the question. Does anybody want to make a motion? If not, Commissioner Daly, you're unmuted. Are you
I'm,
debating?
yeah, I don't have anything to say.
Okay,
I'm
Commissioner
feeling,
Delahunt,
yes,
you're-
I do have something to say. I would like to make a motion.
okay,
I would like to, because I feel like the tenor of this discussion has gone awry based on the last public input. Unfortunately, we cannot respond at this time to that because I would have liked to, but I'm not going to because we're beyond that part in the process. But I would like to make a motion.
okay,
I would like to move that the Park Commission has decided to align with the practice that staff is undertaking to optionally present your pronouns as you sign into the public meetings of the Parks and Rec Commission. And each individual commissioner is completely at their own option to do or not do that. That is the motion.
okay. And do we have a second? Yes.
No.
Commissioner Ye? No, you're opposed to it, or do you?
I just have a comment.
Okay.
Either way on this, just human nature, guys. When you say you have the option to do or not do it, okay, it's saying you have to do it. Okay, that's just how things go.
No. No, it doesn't.
Chair, may I make a comment?
Yes, please.
So this is Jonathan Weinberg, your council liaison.
Thank you.
I have been listening and I understand the emotions that are running right now and the issues at this meeting and broader locally and nationally. I think that you risk introducing a level of confusion rather than clarity to have a motion which says that the commission will follow staff's policy. It implies that the commission could take a different perspective than what the city and staff have established as policy. So I would caution the commission about doing something like that.
May I ask a clarifying question, Councilmember Weinberg?
Sure.
When you say that is the counter, does that imply then that if we don't make the motion, then by definition, the park is aligned with what the council and city staff have decided to implement as policy?
All of the commissions on all issues are expected to align with council and staff policy.
All right.
There are times where it is appropriate to call that policy into question, but I don't think that's what you're trying to do tonight. And if it was what you were trying to do, I think it would probably have to be agendized differently.
No, the intent of my motion was not to counter that policy, it was to align with it. But if you say that that is a redundant or unnecessary act because all commissions are in fact assumed to be in alignment with the direction of council and staff as a coalesced entity, then I gladly remove my motion.
Okay. Thank you, City Council Member Weinberg, for giving us that input. Yes, and Commissioner Daly has his hand up.
I think it's possible that what we should be doing is formulating a resolution. In other words, a statement of values. But I don't think that that's something that we can do on the fly. But I think it would behoove us to consider that. You know, our public spaces are really the places where particularly young people encounter misgendering and other behaviors that can create gender dysphoria and a number of other problems that are not new. In fact, Parks and Recreation staff would probably say that they've been encountering some of these issues for the better part of 25 years. And that it's getting, certainly more, there's some more awareness around it now, but it's not like it's a new issue. So I would just suggest that for those commissioners who feel like they want to be on record, being supportive and inclusive, that perhaps a resolution is the way to go. But I don't think that there's specific action to be taken or a recommendation that we would pass up to council and so forth. So just want to offer that for a suggestion.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And again, for me, the intention of having this on the agenda was more about reminding folks that they can do that and that we're here to help with it if they do want to do it. Yes, Commissioner Ye.
Yeah, this is the same exercise that we did, what, a year ago, maybe, when it was the, we were supposed to say something about being equal in our parks. And which is great. Okay, I love the virtue signaling, it's awesome. But it's kind of like this. It's like if my wife was to say to me, hey, you have kids and it's Saturday, but if you want to play golf, you have the option to play golf, of course. Now, what is she really telling me? Don't do that. Okay. So I don't understand what we're trying to do here. Everyone knows to be a good person. I'm not sure why we need to keep saying how good we are.
Thank you. So if there's no other discussion of this item and we don't have a motion on the floor, I suggest I see Commissioner Corrigan's hand is up.
I just wanted to echo or completely support Commissioner Ye's comment. Thank you.
Okay, so if there are no further comments and no motion to vote on, I would say we move on. Is everybody in agreement with that? Any other comments to be made? And I guess the last thing I would say is please remember the intent was to circle back and make this available to people and to get the help. So hopefully that brought that all to the forefront for people. So I appreciate your time and your comments and your effort on this topic. Thank you very much, including the public. It's important. And if anybody who is listening needs the information about how to get additional information, you can go into our packet and find the links there. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, so moving on. We have, if there are any comments, am I correct on this, Casey? Any public comments for items that are not on the agenda? So that would be anything the public wants to bring up that has to do with us that's not on the agenda.
So we've passed that piece.
Thought so, okay.
Yeah. I think, Teresa, I think you're looking at perhaps the old agenda because there was a formatting issue. That was one of the things that I corrected when I re-emailed it today.
Thank you. Okay, so sorry about that. All right, great. So next is informational items if I'm not completely off on my agenda. Okay,
now you're correct.
Okay, thank you. So the informational items, I actually start this one for the commissioner commitment to volunteer. A couple of things. One, thanks so much for volunteering when the request went out. And then two, the idea is to get a little better understanding about what might be preventing commissioners from volunteering, if it's possible to identify any of those, but also to do a call for there will be more need to volunteer as we move forward. Some more things are opening up. So I'd like to suggest that everybody can try to volunteer for like 2 or 3 things, at least. Maybe if it's per quarter or every 6 months, that would be really helpful. But definitely wanted to get input on what might be holding people back from volunteering. So if anybody, you know, if it's COVID's the reason, if the timing's the reason, if it's the topics, it was just more about getting some input about this so we might get our volunteer numbers up a little bit. Does anybody have any concerns or ideas of what might help them volunteer more, or what's holding you back? And I know we've been in COVID, so we haven't had a lot of volunteering opportunity, but that was the goal with this item, is to just kind of discuss how can we get our volunteering up a little bit more. Yes, I saw Commissioner Valdez's hand go up first, and then it's Commissioner Ye after.
First of all, I feel like I am volunteering, but I wish I could volunteer more. But I know for me personally, I am very involved in trying to give public input on the housing element. And also I'm working on a project with a member of the police department. And, you know, I've got some other commitments. So when activities will, you know, conflict with, say, the Planning Commission or the City Council, that's problematic for me. And but other than that, I do try to volunteer as much as I can. And I hope that, you know, there are more opportunities to volunteer going forward. There is a concern, for example, that I have that, you know, if I heard about a concert coming up on August 25th, that's a Thursday night. Well, that's a Planning Commission night. And given that the housing element, you know, looms above us, you know, and it's a farmer's market night, and I had duty to do farmer's market. So now I have a conflict with the recreation department activity. So sometimes things are overlapping, and, you know, I don't know if there's any way that slightly better coordination, especially within Parks and Rec, might help alleviate conflicts that commissioners might sense in terms of volunteering. I know that particular night is a triple whammy for me. So that's my input.
Great, thank you. And Commissioner Ye?
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel the need to throw in a bunch of personal anecdotes here, but just for my own volunteering, if you guys tell me, I'll volunteer. And so you just kind of have to remind me, and if I don't respond, just keep doing it. And then I just volunteer for whatever.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, great. So the idea, again, it was to say thanks for volunteering. When we sent out the last emails asking everybody, there was a very good response to it, and just keep going with that approach to it. But the idea was, and I mentioned this in that email, was try and pick a couple things you can do so that we can fill the spots, so that we have a couple of us at events to make sure that we're supporting what staff is doing and also what we're doing. And it looks like Commissioner Daly might have a comment. Yes.
I'm not sure how much my colleagues or even I will like this approach, but I can tell you that if you want to improve something, you track it. It's simple. So you keep track of the hours that people volunteer, and you'll get more volunteer hours. Track it, report it back to them, and you'll get more volunteer hours.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Management principle, simple.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate that input. Okay, so if there are no other comments from commissioners regarding that, we'll be able to move on. I don't think we have to take public comment. Yes. Am I supposed to call you Director Hernandez now?
You can call me either one. You can call me Manny, or you can call me Director Hernandez.
Okay, so Director Hernandez, did you have anything to say?
No, just on that topic though, with the COVID, well, I hate to say it, but because it might jinx it because things are turning around, but with COVID somewhat stabilizing and passing through, the recreation department or division is definitely looking at doing some more programs. So we will alert. We never count on, unless it's a program that the commission puts together, we wouldn't count on commissioners to volunteer, but definitely it does help us. It helps the commission as well. So just a bit of information on that. So
Great.
we will announce it though when we have those opportunities.
Perfect, thank you. Great, so that takes care of the commitment to volunteer, and then we have the budget highlights, and that is Director Hernandez's topic to share with us.
Thank you, Chair Morris. So with that, this is let me try to pull this up here. This is informational item. What I did want to touch on here is the budget for the upcoming year has been approved by council. So we're going through. It was really a continuation of the 2-year budget that was prepared a couple of years ago. So we're moving forward with that. Some modifications and some changes came out of the CIP plan. And all of the highlights of the approval of budget was in your packet, and the CIP listing was also in your packet. So at this point, rather than reading word for word everything that goes, do you have any questions on that? And would the commission like me to bring that up on the screen and maybe just kind of go over at least the CIP and see if you have any questions, or is everyone good with it? Everybody seems okay with what the information they've received? Okay, and feel free to contact me directly if you have any questions on the budget. The CIP that you have seen on the listing that we've provided in the packet. If you have any direct questions on that, we are currently in the process of prioritizing those things. But just as a general outline of what Gabe, City Manager Gabe England, and myself, and the I'm going to call them engineering, but Public Works Department was doing is we were prioritizing those things, especially based on staff and bandwidth that we have right now. So more to come on that, but we're kicking things off and we're moving forward with a lot of those things. We have a lot of high priority things that we'll take care of as soon as possible. If there's any questions going forward, and I will keep you updated like some of the other updates I'll be providing in just a few moments, of projects and activities and things that we'll be doing in the coming year as your liaison. So I'll bring those things to you so you're all up to date on it. So, but once again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me directly with email or phone.
Thank you. So that takes us to subcommittee. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that takes us to subcommittee reports. Does it?
Just before, yes,
No.
it does. No, you're correct.
Okay.
It does. Just before we move into that, though, I wanted to note for you, since you and I, Chair Morris, were accidentally in another meeting, I did not fix the chat settings in this meeting right away.
Okay.
Chat is not allowed in the Zoom format or the Ring Central format. So I have disabled the chat. There was only one person who chatted and they just announced their presence. But I wanted to make sure that that was on the recording as well. So that has been disabled and is not allowed moving forward.
Perfect. Thank you for letting us know. All right. So yes, so the oral reports are next. If any of the subcommittees have any reports that they want to bring forward and tell us how your subcommittee work is going, it'd be appreciated. Yes, Commissioner Corrigan has a report.
Sure, and I guess I wanted to report on the market research subcommittee, of which Chair Morris and Commissioner Daly are also part of the subcommittee. We met several times to kind of formulate a proposal, and we iterated on that and we reviewed it with staff, and there were some outstanding questions. We were hoping to present at this meeting, but we have to do a little bit more work and regroup. But we've made, I think, substantial progress. So that's all I have, unless anyone else in this subcommittee would like to comment.
No, I think the only comment I would make as part of the subcommittee is that when we do bring it forward, I think it's going to be a helpful tool, and hopefully it'll help with some of the questions like that have come up about pickleball. So it'll be exciting when we do bring it forward and share it with everybody. So thanks for that, Commissioner Corrigan. Any other subcommittees have any reports? to bring forward? Okay, I don't see anybody with any additional comments, so we'll move on to any requests for future agenda items? No.
Oh, I think, yeah, I
To-
think we're skipping
yeah.
something.
We go to staff oral reports. Thanks.
Yeah, so thank you, Chair Morris, for that. And I'll just, this is an oral report on some of the items on this list. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this in reverse order because I think it'll be succinct as possible, starting with the summer concerts. So the summer concerts, August 25th. This is something that we definitely have been hesitant to do a full series, but we are putting this forward and more details to come out. We just finalized everything recently and who the band is and everything. And it is something that we've always done on Thursdays. And we try to piggyback off of the crowd that's coming to the farmers market, and that's why it's on Thursdays. So, so with that, hopefully we have a good turnout. I think people are looking forward to having the option to do something outside in a group setting and enjoying the music there. So that's the first thing. The next thing I want to do is give a dog park update. The dog parks are in. I want to thank everyone who attended. I think that was most of, if not all, the commissioners. I saw most of you there. I think all of council was there. So I want to really thank them for taking the time out to be there for the ribbon cuttings that we had. We did have two very brief ribbon cuttings, but it was something. Now, the Hillview Park, as everyone knows or should know in this group at least, but for the benefit of the public, is a temporary site. We are now looking into getting the site where the Friends of the Library / parking lot area is across from the library to look at plans for the permanent site. So I believe the Friends are in the process of moving out of their facility right now. I think we got an announcement today. So that process will be moving forward to get the permanent site planned and then eventually built. The Mckinsey site is definitely going right now. Where it is, we're still trying to set this up for a proper evaluation of the usage, of the parking, of the noise, and of other things that were concerns to that area. So we'll be evaluating that shortly. And this is definitely where, going back to a topic we just passed on, this is definitely where the Parks and Rec Commission could come in and help and assist with that in evaluating these things and checking numbers and really going through the process of a proper evaluation of Mckinsey, because that one is definitely, we're still looking for, but have not found any alternate sites or alternate locations for that dog park. So we're moving forward with this evaluation. Hopefully shortly, we're trying to get the word out. We're going to make a push before we start the evaluation. And there's some things that I still need to do and my parks crew needs to do to make some improvements in that area to hopefully make that a better location for the dogs. And then we'll start the evaluation process. So that's the latest on the dog park. The pickleball, and I'm sure some people, members of the public, are here for that. So the update on the pickleball, that is moving forward. We do have the funds to take care of that. Council supported this, and we are going ahead and we are going to stripe some pickleball courts. They will be overlay stripes, so this is moving forward. And I'll tell you the layout in just a second, but this is what we're doing. We're doing 6 courts, which are currently being outlined, and they were recently measured. 6 courts at Mckinsey Park. So we have 2 tennis courts there. We're going to have an overlay of 6 pickleball courts there. There will be nets that will be able to be moved on for pickleball, and there will be priority hours, priority days, should I say, for pickleball and then for tennis. So that'll be kind of a split 3-4. And we'll have those posted clearly. So that's Mckinsey Park. The other location, there's only going to be one other location with pickleball striping, and that's going to be at Montclair Park. Montclair Park, we're going to have 4 pickleball courts there. The original plan was for 2. We're going to make it 4, but that's where we're going to stop. Those 2 locations will be the only pickleball locations. So once we get the plan done, which is, I believe it's completed already from my consultant, and he's doing it. And for the pickleball community who might know Steve, he's doing the plan on that one. And then I will finalize a contractor to get in there and stripe those. What will possibly be take a little bit longer is we are not putting the pickleball lines down until we have the sound protection around the fences. The sound protection we planned on putting up on the fencing. It's very similar to windscreens. It's just a lot thicker. So it's supposed to drop decibel levels by about 10 decibels. So with that, that's what we're investigating right now. We're actually Jamie, Recreation Manager Jamie is looking at that right now and talking to the vendors that supply that. And I think Mountain View is ready to pull the trigger on buying some of those sound protectors as well. So that's what we're looking into. Once we finalize that, get those up and the striping down, pickleball's a go. I've already got the nets made and ready. They're just waiting to be used. So that's where pickleball is right now. Like I said, it's already in motion. So good for all the members of the public that support that. And then we will be once again evaluating the value of pickleball as we can anticipate from the support that we've heard. It's probably going to be very well received. So hopefully we can figure that out, and then we will move toward any kind of improvements or modifications after we evaluate the pickleball programs when they get started. I do not, just for the public's information, I do not have a timeline yet. As I said, those are the moving parts of getting the plans, then scheduling the contractor to put the lines down and purchasing the sound protection. We're going to make some parking lot adjustments as well, but that's where we are with pickleball at this point, and we can probably go forward as we're doing the parking lot adjustments. So any commissioner questions, and then we can go to public comment.
Does anybody have any questions for Director Hernandez? I know I do. I have a few. Okay, but Commissioner Daly, please.
Manny, how are we going to track whether or not the lack of restrooms at Montclair is an issue? Is it going to be anecdotal based on resident feedback, or is there a better mechanism to understand that dynamic?
Yes, thank you. That's actually a very good question. I believe at this point it's going to be probably anecdotal, but with that we can probably evaluate the possibility of maybe getting some restrooms installed there, and that will be down the road, obviously, because of the budgetary implications on that. But yeah, that will probably be the start of it.
How does that play out when it doesn't belong to us, when it's a school district?
Exactly, and that's something that's a discussion that I was just starting with Gabe on that one, with City Manager England on that one is that factor. So I'm not sure exactly how that's gonna play out.
So rather than build facilities there, and by the way, it's needed restrooms have been in demand there for as long as I've been around. I remember coaching T-ball there and having an issue. I don't understand why we don't just approach the school district and say, hey, why doesn't our joint use agreement expand to include the nearest restroom facilities? And we come up with some kind of a understanding of, who cleans the restrooms. But it doesn't make sense to build new ones if there are facilities there that just need to be unlocked.
It could be a discussion we have. I think that's something that we haven't figured out. Once again, we're not really sure that Montclair is the ideal place. It's something
I don't personally think it is. I think we're going to find out that it's not. So, okay, understood.
Find out.
Yeah. Also, Pete, there aren't any bathroom facilities there for adults that are easily accessible. They're inside the library.
Yeah, I've used them. We used to have board meetings in the library. That's not too far from the tennis courts, though.
But they can't open that up. You'd be opening
right.
up the
It's
entire
inside.
building.
It's inside the building. Okay. Sorry.
The security issue too for
Yeah.
children. So it's a whole issue about exposing children to different people too. So, okay.
That's not. We have bathrooms in parks, and school bathrooms are open in certain places too. It's just that site is not an ideal site for what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
Chair Morrison, I think that Vice Chair Corrigan was the next hand raised.
That's right. I'm sorry. It is Vice Chair. Sorry.
Thank you. I had a question for Director Hernandez. I saw some comments. I don't know if they're true. I'm not sure. It was from the public. They talk about striping where tennis players were looking for rust-colored striping to be less distracting to the tenant for tennis use. And then there was a comment that the staff has rejected that and is sticking with yellow striping. So I just wanted to get your perspective on this. I don't know what the history is here and if rust colored striping is an option.
To my understanding, and I can speak to the contractors, if rust colored striping is an option, but we are trying to go off of the recommendation of pickleball players. So we understand that it might be somewhat distracting, and I think we'll find out more about that once we put the yellow striping down. But as far as that being suggested, it was kind of at the 11th hour, but we will look into it. And it's not something that we can't do later on. If we find that it's too distracting, and mind you, other cities, and from what I'm hearing from the contractors that I've spoken to who have put down these blended lines, yellow is the way to go right now. That's the popular one. That's the requested one from pickleball players. So we're trying to do that first. If rust colored striping may be, something that we move to, I think we would probably change all of them. But once again, we're not even sure that these locations are the ideal, especially Montclair. Would be the ideal locations for pickleball at this time. We could redo the striping later on if we find out that that's the recommendation. But once again, it's in the interest of pickleball, and they're defining their lines. Yellow is what's being recommended, and I believe Steve, who is with the pickleball group association, I think he was saying the two popular ones, which the contractors confirmed with me, are the light blue and the yellow at this point. But we'll see where rust goes. That was mentioned to us, so I'll look at and see what other cities do that. I believe Cupertino is the one that I've heard of. So.
Thank you.
Sure.
And then Commissioner Valadez has her hand raised.
Perfect, thanks.
Thank you. On the striping, since this is a test case or a pilot, is there some reason logistically why you can't mix up the lines so that you could get feedback now from a large population of people that are going to use these courts as to which lines for both tennis or pickleball? In other words, tennis players' perspective on the obtrusiveness of different color lines, and then the pickleball users' perspective on the utility of the same lines to give you data. I mean, it seems like it's the perfect opportunity to gather user feedback now, rather than just committing to one color now, and then it's very unlikely that you would be willing to commit to a new color without having some information. I wonder if there's some logistical reason why you can't do that.
No, that's not something that we've ruled out. I mean, that once again,
Okay.
I'm still working on the plans to stripe this. And once I work with the contractors, and that's something that we can go back to pickleball. But once again, we have received the input from the tennis groups and pickleball preferring the yellow lines right now. And this is something that we'll have to talk in more detail with them before we make the final decision. But yes, it's not out of the question. That's something that we could possibly do.
Okay, and then in the sound mitigation, are those opaque barriers? Or are they only sound acoustically opaque, more opaque, or are they visually opaque as well? I'm
not sure how to answer that. They're just like windscreens. That's all I can say. They're
Okay.
either green or black, and they go from ceiling to floor of the fence. So yeah, that's it. It looks very similar. It's just they're very thick. That's all.
And is there, my final question, is there a reason, and I may have missed this write-up somewhere, and I apologize if I did. Is there a reason why there's no, both of the pilot sites are concentrated in one location? I don't want to say north versus south, because they could have easily been in the middle, or they could have easily been in the north. My question is that they are so proximal to each other rather than spreading them out across the city in order to get demographic data that might relate to locality and proximity.
Yeah, those after vetting the tennis courts that we do have, those were probably, our tennis courts are predominantly central to southern Los Altos. We don't have much in the north, unless you consider central the north. But with that, Reseda was considered, I think, in the first plan that I think this commission was briefed on. The first plan, Reseda was the main area. We've actually made the modification from Reseda at the request of the tennis group, and with the consent of pickleball as well. So with that, we vetted the other sites, and as far as parking and other factors, not including restrooms, but yeah, these are probably the two best sites to start off at.
All right, thank you.
I have a few questions, but I just want to make sure other commissioners have had a chance to speak. I don't see any additional hands. Casey, do you? Sorry, right when you're coughing. Okay, thanks.
Sorry, I do not see
Okay,
other
thank
additional
you.
commissioner hands.
So many of my questions were already answered, but Director Hernandez, you said something about priority times, and I wonder if you could define that. And my specific question that is, if there's priority times, but nobody is playing, say pickleball when it's a pickleball time, and tennis players want to utilize the court, or vice versa, is that accepted or not?
Yes, that's absolutely. And that's really what it is. And it's only at the one location. So once again, it's just Mckinsey, because the concentration of 6 pickleball courts there, we anticipate, and from the feedback from the pickleball group, is that they will have a concentration of players at that location with the 6 courts. So their priority will be certain days, and I don't want to rattle off any days because we've got it written down and I can't think off the top of my head. But we will have that clearly posted of which days that pickleball will be the priority. And so tennis players will give those courts up to pickleball, and with the signs posted, they will actually have knowledge of when their priority is the other days, and they can come those days rather than the pickleball days. So that's the intent of the priority days. But if no one's playing, if it's an empty court, if pickleball finishes for the day, which I've seen some other cities have that, and they walk away, then yes, tennis could play on the pickleball days, and vice versa, pickleball can play on the tennis days. There is no priority system that will be enacted at Montclair. Montclair is just a first come, first serve, as if it was tennis. If a tennis player shows up and a pickleball group is playing on their tennis court or a tennis court and they need to get at it, they will wait according to the rules that we have posted. Just like if it was another tennis player using the tennis court, they will wait and then move off as posted, but as the rules were posted. So it's just a first come, first serve and a sharing system at the Montclair site.
Perfect, thank you. And were the neighbors at Montclair, have they been notified of this change to the tennis courts?
We've made announcements, and I'm not sure exactly what the process was leading into this. We could put out more notifications, but there are many neighbors that are aware of this already. Some of them are for and against, from what we've heard, that happening. But the best part is from what we've heard, the feedback we've heard is they are willing to see if it works and to see what that noise is. And that's why we're taking the as much of drastic measures as we can to mitigate that noise pollution from the louder pickleball.
And because we've gone through this as a park commission regarding dog parks and noise, I was wondering about hours. If you're considering like the early morning noise, many people are retired if they don't, or work nights. So if they, have you considered like keeping the pickleball to a later time, or do you have hours figured out?
Right now, no, there's no hours hour restrictions that we've put on any of that. So that's definitely probably something, now that you mention it, is probably something we should look at though.
Yeah, one of the emails made me think about it when they said that there were large groups, you know, getting together at 8 a.m. in the morning. So I thought, wonder if we need to have some hours. So that was one thing that came up in the 28 emails that I read. And then how will the public be able to get feedback to the staff, to you and other staff? Can you make that available somehow tonight, like an address that they can reach out to you?
Yeah, what we're probably going to do through the evaluation, much like the dog park evaluation, is I hope the commission could assist staff in trying to get some information on this evaluation period. So once pickleball gets going, I think we will be sending or having the public send it directly to the commission. I believe Casey, there's a commission email address, correct?
We actually already have a pickleball email address.
Pickleball, there we go. Okay. So yes, so those things, we will get that information through there. And I believe, well, I mean, once that starts coming in, once pickleball's up and going, we can take all that, compile it, bring it back to the commission, and we can put all the information together, hopefully. But yeah, the public will have that. Casey, what is the email of that pickleball?
Yeah, we can make sure it's in the minutes too, so it's written down, but it's Los Altos Pickleball at losaltosca.gov. So all of our city email addresses are losaltosca.gov. The beginning part is just Los Altos Pickleball, all spelled out.
Great. Thank you for that. I think it's important to give people an opportunity. I have a couple more questions, but I see some hands. So I see Commissioner Wang has her hand up. So if we could give her an opportunity, and then I believe Commissioner Valadez is after that.
Thanks, Chair Morris. I apologize if I missed this, but the criteria parameters for the evaluation, is that available somewhere? Or I'm just trying to understand kind of the, what is it that you guys are going to be evaluating against? What's the criteria? What are we looking for?
No, not for pickleball. It's not ready yet. It's not ready yet. It will probably revolve somewhere around the parameters of what we identified for the dog park with noise and traffic and certain things like that. But yeah, we haven't identified it, but it'll probably be a lot more streamlined than the dog park ones.
And is the objective sort of ultimately to sort of come to a position or a decision about whether or not the, pickleball court locations are the appropriate ones, or the number is appropriate, or what are we at a high level trying to gauge or get to?
Well, the main thing is to see if it is a benefit to the community that the community enjoys as a whole, but also the locations as well.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and Commissioner Valadez.
Thank you, Chair Morris. First, I was going to ask similar questions concerning the criteria. I am wondering if it would make sense in your mind, Director Hernandez, for our commission to form a subcommittee focused on the outreach for the pickleball. And if we do that, assign, I guess it would have to be 2 people, because at 6, we can't do 3, right? Or can we do 3, Casey? Okay, so 2 or 3 people to focus on the community outreach for pickleball. And by doing so, create, I've already drafted here, just brainstorming with myself, a list of criteria that might be important that I could, we could present to you, or somebody could present to you, to then review with staff to decide if there are other things that are not covered here, or some things that might be of value. And then that way, when the feedback comes in, it seems to me that you are implying that feedback is just going to come in anecdotally in terms of individual users sending in emails or neighbors sending in emails. I mean, I'm wondering if we could be more systematic in terms of creating a questionnaire, or at least categories of feedback, if not a questionnaire, categories of feedback for users and or neighbors to use. Maybe put up a form at the webpage that people can submit to us. That goes in, and then now we can quantify results a little bit more easily. I'm wondering if that would be of any benefit to you.
Thank you, Commissioner Valdez. Yes, that could be, and that's something that we still have to talk about of the criteria as well. And once again, this goes back to what I was requesting of the commission at some point with the dog park evaluation. It's kind of the same thing, going out there, talking to people, counting people, and if If it means having a small questionnaire for them to fill out, then yes, definitely that's something that we want to do. So I was hoping that it would be the same thing. It would kind of be the same process as the dog park, because these are two big programs, big changes in the city that we definitely want to evaluate to make sure that it's the right thing to do, and it's and you know the locations are right. So yes, that is something that I'll talk with my staff and the city manager as well, that we could possibly do with the commission, but it would be incredibly helpful if the commission would help us with that.
Okay, so procedurally, Casey or Chair Morris, or anybody, any commissioner, procedurally, given that we don't exactly, unless I'm totally lost right now, we don't exactly have a pickleball subcommittee, do we?
No, we don't. And I think
Okay.
for tonight's conversation, just to
Yeah.
keep us on track, because it's clarifying questions only at this point, that what Director Hernandez and I might do is have a conversation about this, and or we might need to add this as an agenda item to have a conversation about this for the future. So if we could add it as a future agenda item, that would be great. If we need to get this moving much quicker because we won't be meeting in August, then it might be where Director Hernandez and I and whoever else we need to meet with meet, and then come up with something and reach out to the commission. But I believe just putting on future agenda is going to get us somewhere.
Okay, so my clarifying question was to make sure that we don't have a subcommittee right now.
Yes,
focused,
we
and
do not.
Thank you,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you.
We don't. Yeah. Any other clarifying questions from other commissioners? Okay, those were really helpful. I'm going to just finish mine, if I may. Actually, I think I have them all written down. Let me make sure. I think they're all answered. I did wonder if anybody on staff has listened to pickleball at any of the parks that have the sound mitigation system in. And I've been noticing that the country club has added that to their pickleball courts. At least it appears to be that it's a heavy green fabric. And so I don't know if staff has had a chance to listen anywhere to how that sound mitigation works or doesn't work. That's my question.
No, we have not, and really our ears don't matter. We will be testing decibel levels.
Okay.
And once again, based on acoustics of the area too, it would probably be different. So yeah, we'll probably be checking those things out. I believe, like I said, I can't remember who has. Now, I don't know of anybody around, but you and I can talk, Chair Morris, about country clubs that may have it. I haven't seen it, but yeah, it would be good to just hear it at least before we make the purchase. But I think we're going to make the purchase anyway, based on the science that we've read about.
Okay, and as you move forward with this, have you considered the environmental impact of the paint and also of the sound barriers? So polyesters and that sort of thing are really hard on the environment. So I'm not sure if there are alternatives and if you've looked into any of those.
No, we have not looked into any alternatives.
Okay, I'll just put it out there that those are
Right.
very bad for the environment when they come from the synthetics and the oil products. So, okay, anybody else? I think we've covered this, and it's time to open it up to public comment. And thank you to the public for waiting so patiently. And Casey, if you want to handle asking people in the order that you found them, sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
Nope, that's okay.
Okay.
I do have 2 people that requested to speak in advance, and it looks like there are 2 in addition to that now. So at the current count, we have 4 members of the public. So if you'd like to allot 3 minutes per member,
That's
well,
perfectly fine. Thank you.
so we will start with Diane Edmonds. And so in just a moment, I will give her a timer to chat and make it where she is able to speak.
Only other thing I'd add is we are not, as commissioners, allowed to make comments on the public comments. So we won't be making comments. Commissioners are allowed to ask clarifying questions, though, just so the public understands this process.
Correct. Diane, you should, let me look right now. You should be able to unmute yourself.
I have, thank
Great.
you.
There you go. You may begin.
All right, good evening, commissioners and city staff. To the commissioners, I would like to thank you for volunteering your time and passion for community service. To the city staff, I would like to express gratitude to Jamie Chu, Donna Legge, congratulations on your retirement, Manny Hernandez, and Gabe England for getting us to this point with many creative ideas over the last few weeks. Casey Richardson also needs a shout out for her handling of the emails and other administrative responsibilities. I came here tonight to originally express the need to support the new pilot proposal and express frustration that 6 months after the original pilot was proposed, we are still without courts. But seeing the new pilot already published in the Town Crier and hearing part of the conversation tonight, I'm very encouraged. However, I need to express the fact that we are going to need an accurate timetable of completion and accountability for the data collection methodology and processes of the city. I know this commission is not involved in decision-making of staff matters, but with now over 90 Los Altos residents that are members of the Palo Alto Pickleball Club, you will be hearing about pickleball in many facets of community gatherings and other issues. The emails you have received just in the last 36 hours should be a signal that whether this is a commission or a city council, the issues regarding the courts will keep resurfacing if we do not get a successful pilot with clear, reliable data and then can make the necessary adjustments. I would also like everybody to take notice that in less than 30 days, the impacted tennis and pickleball communities came together with a compromise that was acceptable to the city. We all had to give up something in order to get something. Less than 30 days. It's an accomplishment I'm very proud of and appreciate the tone and respect that the tennis community provided in our discussions to get resolution. And I just hope that this can serve as an example to other city issues that come before this commission and other city organizations. The goal will continue to be dedicated permanent courts in Los Altos. We will start with shared courts, but there will be an ongoing need within the pickleball community and the community at large that as this sport grows, and we know it will, we will be going for dedicated permanent courts. Thank you very much.
The next speaker I have is Bill. If there are no clarifying questions from commissioners. Okay, I'm going to ask Bill to speak now. Bill, are you there?
Yes, I am. I agree completely with Diane and her kudos to you and all the staff. And I do support the current configuration that you have because I was one of the people that thought that would be the best way to go. I do think that this is not going to be a solution for long term, as Diane has indicated. The demand that the pickleball people have is quite vociferous and strong, and they're feeling they have to have courts all their own. The city probably is going to need to figure out a place to put them that won't be on a tennis court, or else we just won't have tennis courts. And also, I think the city needs to figure out, since there's a great demand for pickleball from all areas in this in the valley, how many people are going to show up to take those courts that are not Los Altos residents? The pickleball people from Los Altos obviously are playing in Palo Alto. I guess Palo Alto doesn't care if they show up there. And they'll probably be happy if half of them move over here. But how many people from other cities are going to show up in Los Altos, creating a demand that will look like Los Altos people really need a lot of pickleball courts, when in fact maybe 50% of the people playing aren't Los Altos residents. So I don't know what the solution is other than, trying to say that only Los Altos residents can play on our courts, but then it'd have maybe an enforcement issue. But I think in the long term, this is going to be the contention that goes forward, is the demand will be there. Who's demanding it? Is it the Los Altos people? You got 90 people. Well, you got thousands of tennis players. So 90 people are driving this whole process. It's a typical, the small minority, drives the majority into doing what they want. So this is a good start. I think Manny's doing a great job in pushing this forward, taking the lead and making it happen. I just hope that the city realizes that this is not going to be the end of it. It's just the beginning. And, we're going to be sitting here talking about this in another 6 months or a year when the pilot ends and people are saying, well, we got to have more pickleball courts. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Thank you.
Are there any clarifying questions? Commissioner Valadez?
I have a clarifying question for the just completed commenter. Excuse me, sir, do you have some data that you could refer to the Park Commission that shows that we have 90 pickleball players and thousands of tennis players in Los Altos? Because I would sure like to get my hands on that report.
Well, sure. I don't have the data hard facts, but your people, or Diane said there were 90 people. There's darn sure more than 90 people that play tennis. The city has 30,000 people, and we have on any given day people playing on all the tennis courts. That's not my position or job to find out what the total people that play tennis are, but I can assure you that it's in the thousands, okay? Because people in Los Altos play in Sunnyvale, they play in Palo Alto, they play wherever they can find courts. And now that we're going to have to compete with pickleball players, 2 of the courts will be gone. And so those people are going to be looking in other cities to play. So, yeah, I mean, it's a little naive to think that there's not any tennis players in Los Altos.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Great. Give me just a moment. The next person I have to speak would be Jane. I'm going to ask Jane to unmute.
Hello?
I have you now, Jane. I will start your timer.
Thank you. I'm low on battery, so I might time out on my own. Anyhow, I wanted to say welcome to Director Hernandez to the Parks Department. I appreciate the tone that you have set during this meeting. And I also appreciate the pop-up. I didn't know, I just learned about that being here. And I appreciate the goal of being inclusive and to build community in our Los Altos community. And I think pickleball actually does that wonderfully well. I can only speak to personal experience. I am a general sports enthusiast myself and didn't know anything about pickleball and was, as I said before, drag kicking and screaming basically in my own mind to a class and just enjoyed it tremendously. And ever since, I have met inside 3 months more people in the community, in the general community, than in the 10 years I have lived in Los Altos. It's amazing. And I would hope that this is something that can be promoted. And I think in order to evaluate pickleball in Los Altos, I think would also be important to have pop-up classes. Or I noticed Palo Alto had the class I participated in was in their Enjoy catalog, recreational catalog class. And I think that would be very important to offer that in Los Altos because it's simply impossible for people to evaluate the sport that they've never played, never been introduced to. You really just have to try it at least once. And I'm happy to be part of the pop-up and just be a volunteer. I'm not necessarily a high-level player, but I'm just friendly and I'm happy to just meet new people. And it's been wonderful. And I think with the mental health crisis that's been going on in this country, interconnectedness and meeting your neighbor is tremendously important. And the ethos of pickleball is just total alignment with that, you know, you can just have a paddle and go to a pickup game and introduce yourself. And the whole ethos is about being inclusive and playing with a new player. And you know, it's very few sports that have that. Basketball possibly, that, you know, this is another option that is wonderful. And I have played with 70-year-olds that I hugely respect their skills, and I have now played with 20-year-olds that are amazing, and it's fun. It just goes across all ages, age groups, and abilities. And, you know, it's just amazingly inclusive. And, you know, this is a little personal on my point, but I'm a cancer survivor now, and getting out there and meeting people has been amazing. And then also when a family member has passed, you know, the ability to just spontaneously go out there and play with people. Maybe you don't want to talk about whatever's going on in your personal life or whatever, but you just want to play and you just want to be with people, and you want to get out there, you know, get fresh air and not just be sitting on a couch somewhere, which is during the pandemic, something that happens much too often. And I just thank you so much. I'll be watching this very closely, the developments for pickleball.
Thank you, Jane.
And we have block parties all the time, and I'm shouting it out to everybody.
Okay, thank you so much for your comments. Do any commissioners have clarifying questions for Jane? I actually have one. If it's all right, I would just ask if Jane is actually serious about volunteering for pop-up, if she would be willing to share her email address with the commission and include that she's willing to help if we do a pop-up for pickleball. That would be appreciated. We may have lost her, but thank you, Jane, for that. Okay, next person, and just please watch the time because we've added a couple people since we first said we'd give 3 minutes. Okay.
Oh, that's correct. I do have Nancy next. Nancy.
Hello. Hi. Just one quick comment. As I was hearing about the different colored lines, and I kept hearing, and we're going to ask the pickleball people which ones they like and how they feel. I just want to add the reminder that it's shared with the tennis people. So don't just get the input from the pickleball people, get the input from the tennis people as well. And then, you know, take all of that information to make a decision. Too often when we have somebody new coming in with a new sport, somehow all of the focus is on the new people and not the old people, not old in age, but whatever the other people who are coexisting there. So that's my only reminder. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next person we have is Scott Spielman. Scott, are you there?
Thank you, Casey. Yes, I'm here. And hi, Parks and Rec Commission, you great people. I so appreciated your questions and suggestions. A great group of people. A couple thoughts, if I could offer to you, since I was really part of the tennis group. I really thought this was a cooperative effort, and I enjoyed working with the pickleball folks. And initially, the tennis community wasn't involved, but once we got involved, it was really a joy to try to work out something together. Tennis, I believe most tennis people will support the pickleball pilot program at Mckinsey. With the lines colored in yellow, I would suggest that most or many tennis players are not going to want to play there. We'll find that out over time. But those lines are not even USTA approved. USTA has a policy that yellow lines aren't appropriate for any serious play. But I'm glad that we're doing a pilot program, so don't take it in the wrong way. Currently, if you understand where we are in Los Altos, there are 10 tennis courts. Now, 4 of them will be lined for pickleball, which is really overall a 40% reduction in tennis. Still, let's go with that and make it work. But please understand that in addition to the pickleball program at Egan, the city's doing a great job to support pickleball. I would suggest, as I listen to everyone, there's going to be a pickleball webpage But shouldn't there be one for racket sports? Shouldn't that webpage include tennis too, so they could feel comfortable commenting as well? Want to leave you with some questions, if I could. I think it's appropriate that the city should reveal how much they're going to pay for the cost of lines and noise barriers. So I think it would be appropriate to make that public. And the plan that the city should come up with to monitor who, what, where, when, why, and sound issues should be a plan that I think should be produced. How is the city going to inform the Montclair neighbors? As mentioned, there could be bathroom issues, noise issues, even possible traffic issues. So should the city look at that and possibly phase that in? And also, how will Park and Rec be involved? I think initially they were bypassed, but they're brilliant people in this commission, and I think they should be used. So I would hope the city would engage them in monitoring this program over time. So thanks so much for what you're doing, and thanks to staff. This was a cooperative effort, and I'm proud to see it go forward.
Thank you for the comments. Anybody have any clarifying questions for Scott? I don't think so. Okay, moving.
Okay. We do still have two commenters. The next one is Dorit. Dorit, are you there?
Thank you, Casey. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. I'll begin your 3-minute timer now.
Thank you, Casey, staff, commissioners, and to the tennis representatives as well that we met with over the past 30 days. I'd like to bring forward the idea of a phased implementation. As we have studied this over the many months, Mckinsey Park is ready to go. It is located next to businesses and an industrial yard, so the noise issues are really at a minimum. So why not implement this trial as a phased system, with phase 1 being Mckinsey? It's ready to go. Whenever the staff is ready to purchase the noise baffling, that can be added and they can have a before and after measurement. No reason to delay on Mckinsey, just strike the courts and let's go. Montclair can be implemented a little bit later. There are several more issues of talking to neighbors and definitely implementing the sound barriers at Montclair. But the fact that Montclair may take some time is no reason to delay Mckinsey. We really have been at this for more than 2.5 years. So to have additional delays is really frustrating. And I see no reason why the Mckinsey pilot can't go forward and the Montclair one join in whenever those issues are resolved. I also just want to put forward that at the moment, we have 90 dues paying members in the Palo Alto Pickleball Club that are Los Altans. Those are people who have actually gone out of their way to become members, to pay dues, and to join a club in a city outside of their own. We know that there are many more Los Altans who have not taken the step of becoming dues paying members, but who are avid pickleball players. So we do know that we have the demand and that it's a very popular sport. I also echo Jane's enthusiasm. I myself have met over 200 people playing pickleball, people I never had a chance to meet with and connected with, of all ages. I enjoy the sport tremendously. It has given me a social outlet, a physical outlet. I can play daily. I don't have to make plans. It works if you're isolated. You just show up and you will be welcomed. It is very inclusive. It is the kind of thing you want to share with everyone across abilities, across ages. And again, I do believe that we as a city are ready to move forward at Mckinsey Park without any delay, without any waiting for anything. And Montclair, yes, take the time, purchase the sound baffling, install it, but don't delay Mckinsey, not another day. Thank you.
Did you have a clarifying question, Commissioner Valadez?
Thank you, Casey. Ms. Perry, I have a clarified question for you. Would you possibly have the resources or the interest in taking a more quantitative approach to try to identify how many people in Los Altos actually would like to play pickleball? Or have you already gathered such information? I know you mentioned two numbers, the 90 dues paying members and the, many, many more. That's the phrase you use, that are Los Altons that play pickleball. But is there anything more quantitative that you could possibly show now or show soon? Because I know that that would be very useful to me and possibly other commissioners.
I can try to collaborate with the leadership at the Palo Alto Pickleball Club, but people don't have to join to play in Palo Alto. There's also limits to the number of non-Palo Altons that can join. So there are constraints that make it that way. And just socially, I keep running into people that play pickleball that aren't members.
Okay.
So they are going to San Jose, they are going to Sunnyvale, they are going to other neighboring cities, Mountain View. And when I run into them, people always say, where are you from? Where do you play? And so I hear about many groups of Los Altons that aren't members, that haven't decided to pay the dues and to join.
Thank you.
I have two clarifying questions, but before I do, any other commissioners have a question for Dorit? Doesn't look like it. My two clarifying questions is something that she just mentioned is, Dorit, you mentioned that there's a limit to how many people can sign up to participate in Palo Alto. Can you elaborate on that a little bit for me, please?
Yeah, it's not how many can participate. Those are public courts and anybody can come and play. But there is a nonprofit organization called the Palo Alto Pickleball Club. And they collect dues. And they have decided that their membership needs to be 50% people with a Palo Alto address. Okay. So in order for the club to grow with people without a Palo Alto address, they need to keep it 50% Palo Altons. That's for their own status as a 501c7, I believe, as a nonprofit public entity. I'm not on the leadership of the Palo Alto Pickleball Club, so it's hard for me to give you much more specific information. But it is a Palo Alto organization, and they have opened it to others. So even some of my friends in Los Altos and Diane, who is on this call, when she tried to join, she had to wait until there was an appropriate moment to join.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
You had a second question? You had a second question?
I do. It's about Montclair. So I'm trying to clarify, and I'm sorry if you put this in your letter and I don't remember it, but I was trying to clarify, are you saying, I've heard, so just to put a little background on, I've heard a couple people or read a couple things where Montclair wasn't desired by the pickleball community as a location. So I'm trying to ascertain, are you saying that it is not a desire for you to have pickleball at Montclair, or are you saying that it's a desire, but don't hold back on Mckinsey as a result?
When we started this, thank you. When we started this work many, many months ago, we looked at the 4 tennis court locations and we built an Excel grid with priorities. And Montclair was not on anybody's priority list for several reasons. Number one, it is too close to homes. Pickleball noise is a real factor and will impact the homeowners negatively. These are our neighbors in Los Altos. I don't want to be associated with something so negative. Across the state, people have noted that 200 feet is about the distance, minimum distance, that you can have a home from a pickleball court. So number one, Montclair is a poor choice because of the proximity of homes. Number two, Montclair is a poor choice because there's no parking. Number three, Montclair is a poor choice because there are no restrooms. And number four, programmatically, We want to concentrate pickleball. We want to have one location.
Right.
Every city that I'm aware of concentrates the pickleball. Maybe because of the neighbors and the noise, but maybe because it makes sense for the game. For the game to succeed, you need many courts. You need people mixing in, coming out of games, going immediately into other games. You need that concentration. You don't set up a game like tennis, and I'm a 30-year tennis player. You just show up as a single, as an individual, as a divorcee, as a recent widow, whatever is your story. You come alone, you leave with friends.
Great.
So we need the concentration. So Montclair is anathema. There is no city nearby us that has a distributed model. Every city has opted to concentrate the courts.
Okay,
And
thank you.
you know,
That answers my question, and I'm sorry, just for time reasons, I'm gonna move along. Thank you, Dorit. Okay. Casey, we have a couple more people.
I think we only have one more.
Oh.
Give me just a moment.
I see two hands, Chris and Derek.
Oh, okay.
And-
I'm sorry.
Hadn't seen Chris added. So we're going to start with Derek. Derek, are you unmuted?
Yes, I think I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can. I will start your 3-minute timer now.
Okay, thank you. So this is more of a questions about the dog park, because I've heard that you have a criteria for the pickleball potentially, and you have a email address to get questions and things and comments about, but I don't know if there's anything for the dog parks, and I would appreciate that we would be able to get that information and that be published somewhere so that we can have that information available and be able to submit comments about the dog parks.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and also it seems that we're putting a lot of burden on one park, Mckinsey, and I don't know why that is. I get that it's not potentially near homes, but it's also near doctors' offices that need quiet and concentrated times to handle patients and things. So I'm sure, and I don't know why that is not a factor in these discussions and thinkings. So I would just like to see that. And the parking is still an issue. I mean, if you have 90 more people trying to park, there is not as much parking as you guys may think at Mckinsey. So now you factor in the fact that we have potentially people from neighboring places coming to the dog park and the pickleball that's going to concentrate and back up traffic or parking in neighborhood streets, etc. So just a few thoughts to make sure that we're doing all this in a fashion that's open and we can get good comments about users, etc. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Morris, if I may.
Yes, Director Hernandez, we have one more speaker. Do you want to jump in before that?
Yeah, just real quick for any members of the public that have, and that was a good question by the last speaker regarding dog park comments. Casey, I believe we have a general recreation email that can be sent to, and once we get that, I can go ahead or any of my staff can send the criteria that we're using for the dog park, because that's already basically set. So Casey, what is that email?
That email is rec-info@losaltosca.gov.
Thank you.
Additionally, my email address is associated with the commission. It is on all of the agendas, and any of those inquiries or comments can come to me and I will direct them appropriately. I think the last comment we have is for Chris, and Chris, I'm sorry, I think I would butcher your last name, so I'm going to just unmute you. Are you?
I'm happy to say I pronounce it like polio with a B, but it's polio. Thank you. I want to just it's late. I'm going to just be brief. I just want to thank everyone for the great comments. I was one of the representatives of the tennis community, and I think just to summarize, what we were missing in the sort of prospective phase of this was data about what the needs would be for either tennis or pickleball communities. And that's past history. I think what we are looking for now is I guess I should have said retrospective, but we need prospective data as the pilot goes on about what the effect is on both communities. And I do want to also thank the pickleball folks for coming together and the city for putting a pause on the initial pilot program, because I think it was not fully thought through. It seems to me that this the Parks and Rec Commission is really, a key body to be thinking about these very things, right? So I'm really glad to have the forum to hear everyone's comments. Last thing I'll say is that it was proposed that maybe there's a subcommittee that's the pickleball subcommittee, and I think Scott touched on this. It needn't be a pickleball subcommittee. It could be a racket and paddle subcommittee or something that represents both communities effectively. So that's all I had. Thank you so much for all the consideration.
Thank you to everybody who took their time to show up at our meeting and make comments. Does anybody have a question for the last speaker? I'm not seeing any, so we'll close this agenda item and move on. I believe we're at future agenda items. Yay. So yeah, you got it right is why I'm saying that. So with that, I'm wondering if anybody has any future agenda items that they want to see added to our future agenda. It looks like Commissioner Corrigan does.
Yeah, I think I'm probably, oh, thank you. I think I might be stating the obvious, but we would want to have the market research subcommittee come back and present at some point in the future what our proposal is. Thank you.
Commissioner Corrigan, do you have an idea of when? Sometimes we put kind of an approximate date, September, October.
I think that would be my guess, September, October, unless the other subcommittee members disagree.
I can put those two. I mean, they're not set in stone. We'd like to indicate. Thank you.
That would be good. Thanks.
I'm comfortable with that as well. And if Commissioner Daly has any concerns, no. Okay. And I want to apologize. I'm referring to Vice Chair Corrigan as Commissioner Corrigan, and he's actually Vice Chair Corrigan. So I need to get that embedded in my brain a little bit more. So I apologize for the incorrect addressing there. So any other future agenda items?
I think Commissioner Valadez.
Yes.
I'd like a clarification. It is my understanding we're taking a break next month. Is that true?
Yes, it is. It's
okay.
Traditional.
So given that the next legislative meeting would be in September, given the potential timelines for pickleball and the collaboration between pickleball and tennis and assessment, et cetera, I mean, I wanted to put a future agenda item, which is to have at least a discussion amongst the commission on how we scope out this assessment of or compilation of user feedback and neighbor feedback, but I'm concerned about timing. So I don't know if the future agenda item would be so far out that we would miss the window. So I'm looking for some guidance, perhaps from Chair Morrison, Vice Chair Corrigan on this.
I wonder, actually, may we ask Director Hernandez what he thinks, because we don't know the timing.
Yeah, and I could say a few words here on this. Yeah, I think that's the key right now. We're not sure of the timing. I'm hoping that we can get the pickleball rolling sooner rather than later. I don't know what the timing is. So with that, I can just keep the commission abreast of what the timing does where it falls, because there's a few factors. Once again, the contractor, when the contractor can schedule us, which I don't think will be that far out. And I don't anticipate that the sound barriers would be that far out either, but it could be, I'm not sure. So, and we're going to do it at both locations simultaneously with the painting of the lines. So without a schedule on that, I'm not sure that it would be necessary to try to plan that out at this point. Once I have a schedule, I can send that out to the commission, and then we can see where we go from there as far as having a special meeting or something like that, maybe at the end of August. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the timing would be. So.
With that answer, then I would like to put on a potential future agenda item. I just want a placeholder. I'll say, go ahead and call it pickleball / tennis pilot discussion, keeping it generic. And then we can decide when we can have that discussion formalized.
Yeah, and Chair Morris, what I could also offer is maybe more to include the dog park too, because that's coming up, and now that it's in motion, it really hasn't met its full utilization yet to evaluate. But I think just the park usage evaluation for the new amenities would probably be a good thing to consider as a whole. So.
I agree. It's how can we help staff assess these two new programs? Because decisions are made, we don't have input on those, but how can we be of service in helping with the assessment of it? I think that would be the agenda item, but you know, that it can be reworded, but we're not being invited to do more than help with assessment at this point. And with those two things, the dog park and the racket sport assessment. So if everybody's comfortable with that, we could put that on as the future agenda item and then plan it for discussion. Is that agreeable to people? Maybe wave your hand. Okay, yes. I'm getting some yeses. Okay. Commissioner Yeh, are you comfortable with that? Okay. Commissioner Valadez, are you comfortable with that?
I guess it's generic. It doesn't incite me to action. I don't know what action we will actually be doing and how we would contribute. So perhaps process gets in the way of deciding that tonight, but it doesn't give me any foresight as to what our next steps, to what expectations will park be held, and how will park actually expend energy and bandwidth on this topic. I don't have a good sense of that. But if that's as clear as we can get, then I certainly would accept just putting a line item under future agenda items where we would talk about this.
And that would be part of the agenda preparation process that Chair Morris and Director Hernandez do each month. So they could write a more specific call to action based on the feedback that has been received.
And keeping in mind all of the comments that commissioners have made and the concern about having actual action that we take. Commissioner Valadez, heard you loud and clearly on that one. And I think it's going to be very staff driven in many ways. So, okay. Any other future agenda items anybody wants to add? Yes, Commissioner Daly.
I assume since it's listed here that this is going to be on the agenda, that we're going to have an update on park and loop funds.
I believe we are waiting for a specific thing. Can you speak to that, Director Hernandez?
Yes, usually, or actually, Donna is available now as a consultant to tell us what the plan is. My understanding is we do have somebody from the finance department come in. So Donna, actually, can you go ahead and speak to that? I think you have more information than me right now.
Sure, yes. When inquired by the commission, I asked our engineer, Jim Sandoval, and he's waiting for more direction from council through the summer. So, you know, we're thinking sometime in the fall, he'll have enough information, but right now he's waiting on some more conversations by city council. So we're just leaving it as a placeholder until we hear further from engineer, actually, he's the Public Works Director now, Jim Sandoval.
Any other questions about that, Commissioner Daly? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I suppose.
Okay, thanks. Yes, so the other ones that we have are the playground music features, and that's in January. And now we've added a couple more future agenda items. So if everybody is comfortable with that, I think
Are we planning something for Halloween?
that would be a really good future agenda item.
It would seem to be something that should be on the September agenda.
Is staff planning anything, Director Hernandez?
Yes.
Isn't that when we do the movie night?
Yes, we're bringing that back. We just made the final decision on that just recently. So what we may do is we have some options for movies. And since there's no planned meeting at this point for August, we will probably just get some like poll information from the commission. I'll be sending out an email with the list of movies, and we'll see if we can just vote on your top 3, and we'll pick 1, possibly 2, depending on the timeline. But we're in the process of organizing that. But yes, we're looking at, I believe it would be somewhere around the October 22nd, if that's a Saturday. We're looking at some kind of Halloween movie in the park at Grant Park at this point.
The new Ghostbusters is a good choice.
Yeah, I think that's on the list. I don't know which one though, but yeah, we've got a few on the list.
Okay, so to clarify, we can add that to our agenda to discuss, because we might even want to have an activity table there, not necessarily pop up, but an activity table. So we ought to add that as a future agenda item.
Absolutely, yes. Staff will be reaching out to the commission on selection of the movie, final selection of the movie. But yes, that'll be a discussion item in September.
Great. Okay. Any other ideas for future agenda items? We're rolling now. No, we're good. Okay. I think we've reached the end of the meeting. I just wanted to make 2 final things. I appreciate the people that have been here tonight and have helped us, and certainly helped me through some of my bumps as I'm learning the procedure. But I know a couple of people are ill, and they've attended and helped us greatly. And I want to be very cognizant of the fact that they're here, and I appreciate that a great deal. It's nice when our whole commission is together, and it takes great effort when people are not feeling well to be here. So thank you for that. And unless there's anything else, it's 9:19 and our meeting's over. And have a great August. We'll see you all in September. Thank you, and welcome, Director Hernandez.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.